Is Ukraine working to expand its bridgehead across the Dnipro? And is Russia starting to rely on deepfakes to counter Ukrainian battlefield successes? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's November 19th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, this is a little different. The control map actually hasn't been updated in about 36 hours, which is not totally crazy. But we have this, which I got it from X. It's off of the original source is this at ComSent76. Now, I treat X like the rumor mill, and that's how you guys should treat this as well. But that said, some of these, this is just a different perspective that has a little more granulation than what we've typically seen from the reporting publicly about the efforts in and around the Kherson region, right? When we zoom into this public map, you can see just how kind of underwhelming some of the reporting is. So when we look at this map, you can see this is depicting, of course, several bridgeheads, which Ukrainian and even Russian sources have confirmed at this point, with some of the heaviest fighting apparently happening in Krinky, with other bridgeheads crossing near Prishchanivka and Poima. And what I think is interesting when we look at the map here, so here is Krinky, which you can see Ukrainian forces. This is depicting their bridgehead as actually being in the center of the town. This is a new change from what we've previously seen. It depicts them as basically holding the center of the town and Russia holding kind of the flanks. I think Ukraine's goal is to expand along this bridgehead. But as we talked about, this large forested area that surrounds the town is going to be really hard to maneuver through. Russian forces likely able to dig in. Ukrainian drone assets and artillery are going to have a harder time targeting Russian forces that are sort of dug in this area. And so I'm actually sort of skeptical that we're going to see a big breakthrough in Krinky. I think it'll look more like a fixing operation. The real effort, I think the real chance to breakthrough is going to come from this Pidstepine, Prishchanivka, and Poima. And when we look to the west, you can see that this is, again, sort of depicting these areas. Right? Here's Pidstepine, here's Prishchanivka, and here's Poima. And what I think is interesting is, first, you can see that these all abut this national park here, which is reportedly a sand dune type of national park. And let's see if we can pull it up on Google Maps and just sort of see if we can use the satellite imagery to get a sense of kind of the terrain that we're looking at here. There we go. Poima, Kherson Oblast, Ukraine. And let's pull this up here. Okay, so here we go. Take a look at this. This is the town or region of Poima. And what I think is fascinating is that you can see here's the Dnipro, right? The Antonovsky Bridge, temporarily closed. Yeah, I'd say so. And then you get to this town of Poima. And notice that this terrain very, very flat and very open. Much, much harder to establish. While you can definitely establish significant mining operations here, there's less cover and there's less concealment. And if you've ever dug a fighting position in sand, it's quite a bit harder. And so I think this open terrain also favors offensive action, right? You have wider fields of maneuver. Again, if you can clear the minefields or if the mine threat is not tremendous. But again, to me, the takeaway here, as you can see, is that this is very open terrain. I mean, these are clusters of trees, but man, a lot of open terrain relative to the other surrounding regions. And so I think what you may have is the ability of Ukraine to move quickly across these areas if they can get armored forces or at least motorized forces, right, wheeled vehicles across the river somehow through either a rail crossing, the Antonovsky Bridge, a pontoon ferry system. Otherwise, it's going to be tough to really take advantage of that big open terrain. That said, if they're able to get to this M14 highway, they may be able to use this to put pressure on this town of Kozachi Lahiri and threaten even these defenders to the rear in Krinky. So what you may be seeing is actually like a fix a fix and finish type operation where the fixing effort is here in Krinky and the flanking effort is going to be along this M14 highway. That would, of course, achieve Ukraine's stated intermediate goal of getting this 8 kilometer, 3 to 8 kilometer buffer away from the Dnipro River, where Russian artillery is going to be less able to target Ukrainian civilians in Kherson. But if they can clear out those first, 3 to 8 kilometers, I think it's very possible that Ukraine can exploit this further. Again, it's going to be about clearing this initial defensive structure, these initial defensive lines here, which it seems like that's a Ukrainian priority. But even so far, I think it's important, quite important actually. You can see 8 kilometers on this map, not really all that far. It looks almost like Ukrainian forces, based on this map anyway, are probably 8 kilometers, nearly 8 kilometers or 7 kilometers from the river itself in Poima and Prishchanivka, which would put it, again, if you can get 8 kilometers in, you will be deeper than the deepest Ukrainian penetration in their initial counteroffensive, right? You can see here, this is more or less the previous line, and you can see that they, at their absolute apex, got, it looks like maybe 12 kilometers is the deepest they penetrated at any given point. And in just a few weeks, they are at least dancing with about, roughly that amount, or at least 40, 60% of that. That's real progress, guys. That's real progress. And I think it's a really good sign for Ukrainian forces. Of course, guys, that sponsors for a channel that covers Ukraine are kind of hard to come by, but that's all right because I have the best sponsor, which is my company. If you're interested in supporting a veteran-owned company, you want to check out Strike Gum. Strike Gum is inspired by my time in Afghanistan when I had to get caffeine to stay focused on these long combat patrols, and the only way I could get it was these absolutely horrible energy drinks called Rippets. But like every energy drink, they were loaded with sugar, super carbonated. The government paid for Rippets, but as a civilian, I had to pay, $4 a pop for like a Red Bull. So Strike Gum is basically better in every way. Zero sugar, no carbonation. Each individual piece, one piece, has as much caffeine as a Red Bull or Amp Energy, 90 milligrams. Plus, we have Alpha GPC, a powerful nootropic to further enhance your cognition and focus. And each piece is only 5 calories, right? You can put it in your pocket, your gym bag, keep it anywhere you want to go. Keep it in your dashboard, and it is a quick hit of caffeine. We've had dozens of 5-star reviews come in already for the product. People love it. Literally 1 in 5 people that buys it, reorders a tray. So the data is clear. Anyway, if you're interested in checking it out, the best part, of course, is that 50% of the profits from this first production run, I'm donating to Ukrainian charities that support civilians who've been injured or displaced in the conflict. So if you're interested, check us out, strikegum.com. Now, here's what I also wanted to talk about. This is an unusual story. This is actually from a Vietnamese news outlet that's reporting that a video that came out some time ago that says the commander-in-chief, so the commander-in-chief is a specific role in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian military, right? It's the overall commander of the armed forces. This video was reportedly depicted the commander-in-chief calling for the overthrow of the president. The video was actually a deepfake, inspired by a year-old video. As you can see here, right, this depicts the original video showing him speaking, the commander-in-chief speaking at a news conference, right, on the eve of the invasion. And then Russia has created a deepfake in which the same commander appears to be instead saying that Zelensky has to be outed, accusing him of corruption against the state. And what I think is interesting about this is one of the first times we've seen a state actor get busted for producing deepfake content. And it's not clear if Russia is just amplifying this message, if pro-Russian trolls are actually the ones who created it. But what I think is disturbing is that these exist and they're only going to get better. So it's like the old adage, believe none of what you read and only half of what you see. And again, we have crossed a threshold, I think, at least to me, where state actors are going to start producing these fake videos in order to discredit their opponents, in order to create confusion among their enemies. And right now it's Russia and Ukraine, I can promise you it's coming for the political parties in your home country. It's coming for geopolitical rivals. It's coming for business moguls, right? If the CEO of company X and company Y are beefing, I'm sure you will start to see deepfakes of them embarrassing themselves or saying compromising things. Unfortunately, I think this is the way of the future, right? And we already sort of crossed this threshold in our society with things like Photoshop, right? For 30 years now, you could Photoshop something that makes it look like your favorite celebrity is in a boxing match with your other least favorite celebrity. So, as a society, we've learned to recognize that those things can happen. But we still treat videos and official statements as being gospel truth. And frankly, you probably shouldn't. So anyway, that's all I had for today, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks to our Colonel tier members at combatvetnews.com. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members. You guys know twice a week we find the viral uncensored combat videos, and we do the deep dive analysis on my site, combatvetnews.com. I appreciate all the supporters. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.